Stella had been in a relationship with Luke for over 2 years now. They met at work. It was an office romance. Stella couldn't understand where their feelings came from and attributed them mainly to the boredom that she'd been experiencing for the past couple of years. Somehow, Luke managed to dispel it. He was well-read, respectful, and had a great sense of humor, and made beautiful gifts. Over time, the once passionate relationship dulled down, fading away under the pressure of everyday routine. Thus, a vacation for just the two of them seemed like the best idea to rekindle their feelings for each other. Stella was cheerfully packing up backpacks and suitcases, stuffing them with all sorts of swimsuits, shorts, and hats. Almost every night, the woman dreamed of green jungles full of wild monkeys and colorful birds, yellow sands of the desert scorched by the sun, and the savannah overgrown with gray grass and full of lions and giraffes roaming around. It was their craving for adventure that pushed the young couple to buy tickets to Africa. A few weeks later, all the arrangements were made, and Stella couldn't wait for their plane to land on another continent. Seeing how the woman was trying to close the overpacked suitcase, Luke snorted. Are you going on vacation or moving? Well, I need it all, Stella answered with a smile. That's so nice to have a lot of options. I could put on something new every day and always look great. Luke snorted again, then shrugged and walked out of the room. The woman looked after him sadly and sighed, thinking, I hope this vacation helps. After several transfers in different cities and countries, the young people reached the capital of the Congo, where a bus picked them up along with other tourists and took them to a small village where the camp was located. All the way to the camp, Stella stared out the window. She was fascinated by the savannah that stretched out for many miles around. Unfortunately, Luke didn't share his girlfriend's delight and sat silently, making it obvious that he was unhappy. He didn't like the rest of the passengers. There were 2 young men who were constantly laughing, an elderly French couple, and their guide, a young and pretty black woman. Why are you pouting? What don't you like? Stella whispered, glancing first at Luke, then at the landscape flickering outside the window. Look, it's all so beautiful. Luke ignored his girlfriend and stared pointedly at his phone. There was something wrong with him. Something broke inside him, but Stella couldn't figure out what it was. The only thing she knew for sure was that the trip wouldn't help their relationship. It was foolish to hope otherwise. The first night under the African sky was eerie for Stella. There were too many sounds, the noisy birds and some incomprehensible rustling. The very next morning, all the tourists went to see the incredibly beautiful waterfall, a local attraction that was hidden deep in the jungle. The bus couldn't take them there, so they had to walk most of the way down a narrow path through the jungle. Luke and Stella also had to take that route. Thus, having packed up their backpacks, they were the first ones to jump off the bus. The couple wandered into the unfamiliar place on their own, ignoring the instructions of their guide. The majestic view of the waterfall captivated the woman. She stood there for a long time, admiring the incredible view that unfolded on the very cliff in front of her. Taking advantage of Stella's fascination, Luke picked up a large stone and dropped his backpack on the ground. I have to tell you something. There's another woman, the man muttered in a low voice. Her name's Monica, and you know her. Also, she's 8 weeks pregnant and the baby's mine. Unwilling to believe her ears, Stella slowly turned to face her boyfriend and couldn't utter a single word for a long time. Monica? She finally breathed out. That woman from the marketing department? Are you having an affair with her? Is that why you've been behaving like that? And here I am arranging this whole trip trying to save our relationship. I love her and I don't love you. Luke nodded his head. I only started dating you because you're my boss. I thought you'd give me a promotion and a raise, but you're a pretty woman and a mean one too. I've long wanted to get rid of you and become the head of the firm. Stella staggered and almost fell. Luke's words hit her like a blast wave. "Don't do this, Luke," the woman whispered, having guessed her boyfriend's intentions. "Don't kill me. Let's go back and I'll give you whatever you want. Let's just forget about everything that happened here. Just don't do it." But Luke continued to walk towards his frightened girlfriend, waving the stone in his hand, and no amount of persuasion could change his mind. Stella got hit on the head and fell off the cliff. She quickly fell down into the green expanse of the lake. In just a moment, the woman found herself in the water. Having nearly choked, she emerged from the cold depths to the surface and looked up, but Luke was no longer there. Stella screamed, feeling blood gushing from the wound on her head and getting into her eyes. Her screams got lost in the noise of the waterfall and no one heard her. Feeling that she might faint, Stella rushed forward, swimming towards the shore as fast as she could. Having gotten out of the water, she crawled into a small cave behind a tree and collapsed on its damp floor. She did faint. In the meantime, Luke put on a whole show for the group. He ran up to the guide and told her that a terrible thing had happened. His beloved girlfriend went too close to the cliff and fell into the waterfall. The police quickly arrived at the scene, but Luke was already gone by that time. At about that time, Stella woke up because someone was dragging her deep into the cave. Having opened her eyes, she tried to see who it was, but it was pitch black, so she couldn't make out anything. The outlines of the unfamiliar creature looked huge and terrified the young woman. The animal didn't stop until it finally dragged Stella out of the cave and into the light. Seeing who was holding her, Stella squealed and covered her face with her hands. There was a huge gorilla standing in front of her. Every now and then, the animal ran up to Stella and sniffed her, and then laid down next to her and began to scratch her belly. The woman realized that she wasn't in any immediate danger, and put her hand into the thick fur of the gorilla and gently scratched behind her ear. "I want to go home. Do you understand me?" Stella cried, addressing the silent animal. "First my boyfriend wanted to kill me, and now you're scaring me." Looking at the woman, the gorilla smiled and smacked her black lips. Suddenly, it jumped to its feet, which nearly scared Stella to death, and then it started beating its chest with its fists. Having rushed off somewhere after this performance, the gorilla returned, holding several branches with mangoes in its hands. Having put its gift in front of the woman, the animal went back into the cave, and soon Stella heard it snoring loudly. Stella had dinner and joined her savior. She laid down next to the gorilla on the cold floor of the cave, clinging to the gorilla with her whole body. The woman quickly warmed up and fell asleep. A few hours later, the gorilla woke Stella up with a push and led her through the labyrinth of the cave. Stella obediently followed her silent guide, no longer afraid of anything. In her heart, the woman felt that the gorilla wouldn't harm her and was even trying to help. Suddenly, a bright light hit Stella's eyes. After yet another turn, she stumbled upon some strange men. They were her rescuers. Seeing the wounded woman and the gorilla walking beside her, the men drew their weapons and aimed. Stella raised her hands up and rushed forward, covering the animal with her body. "Don't shoot!" the woman exclaimed. "This gorilla saved my life!" But the rescuers didn't understand English well and didn't immediately understand what was happening. One of the men thought the gorilla had attacked the woman, so he fired a shot. The bullet hit the animal in the shoulder and it started running, roaring loudly. "Why did you hurt the gorilla?" Stella kept repeating, wiping tears off her face. The animal didn't do anything wrong. On the way to the lake, Stella saw the guides surrounded by several policemen. They were discussing something quietly and making notes in their notebook. Having noticed Stella, they immediately fell silent and rushed towards her. "Thank God you're alive!" The guide smiled and hugged Stella. "The divers had been searching for you in the lake all night long, but then they decided to check the caves. How did you end up there?" The woman briefly told her rescue story, and then learned from the police that Luke's body was found. The investigation was still establishing what happened to the man, but he probably died from a solid blow to the head. "That's horrible," Stella said, and asked the guide for some water and then closed her eyes. The events of the last hour swarmed in her head. Luke's attack and his death, the gorilla and the dark caves. It all felt so unreal, like she was stuck in some kind of old movie. The only evidence of the incident was the abrasions on the woman's body and the pain she was feeling. Stella will remember this vacation for the rest of her life. Still, it won't only be the disappointment and betrayal that she'll remember, but also how kind and helpful even the most formidable animals can be.